Okay, you're live. So tell me the story
Okay.
of your husband, please. So tell me about the accident and how he responded and stuff, please.
Okay. So about a year and a half ago, it was May 10th of 2021. He was on the softball field going up for a fly ball, and he collided with another player. And the way I describe it to people, it was like an MMA hit, only instead of the MMA fighter hitting a static other fighter, they were both moving in opposite momentums at Mach speed, basically. So he was sliding to catch the fly ball. The other player was jumping to catch the fly ball and kneed him in the right side of his forehead. And so he had 7 brain bleeds. He had a right frontal contusion, a left lobe brain bleed, 3 hemorrhages in his brainstem, and 2 punctures, so very small bleeds. And I'm not sure where those were in the brain, but he hemorrhaged his corpus callosum, his dorsal pons, and his midbrain. And so he also had a spinal cord injury. He was completely paralyzed from the neck down. He couldn't feel his lower appendages. So, they do these needle tests to see if he has sensation. He had no sensation. And in fact, his legs were cold and lifeless and blue. They were about 10 degrees colder than the rest of his body. And he was in a coma for 11 days. When he woke up, he was completely paralyzed. He couldn't speak. He couldn't swallow. He couldn't see, and he didn't know me or my son. We have a 5-year-old son who was 3 at the time. And he's 90% himself now. So he was a sort of superhuman athlete before, which we all took for granted. We never kind of gave him the credit. We never realized how superhuman he was, and then and he is on his way back to that. And I'm going to share some things with you that I think are the most remarkable parts of this recovery. So the way we kind of came to your product was that we started to see the profound healing effects of oxygen. And so we did hyperbarics, and on the first maybe 15 or 20 dives, we had kind of built this community of other brain warriors, these injured humans, and they're usually wives. Almost all the injured people were men. And then we had one female patient with us in the inpatient hospital. We were inpatient for 4.5. We were inpatient for 10 weeks and then outpatient for another 10 weeks. And then I remember then asking me, do you think hyperbarics is worth it? And we were on dive 15 or 20, and I said, I don't think so. I don't see any improvements in it. And then at 22 dives, there was this profound shift in Jeff. He had developed this severe claustrophobia, so any kind of small spaces, elevators, he was just fearful all the time, which is not him. He's like this, the superhuman. He's not afraid of anything. He's up for all these, extreme sports and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden he can't get in an elevator, and he especially can't get in a hyperbaric chamber. And so at 22 dives, he went from me having to talk to him for 45 minutes. We could only get him to stay in the chamber for 45 minutes. And then he would be in a panic and be like, you have to get me out. You have to get me out now. And so we would take him out. And at this 22nd dive, he goes, sweetie, I'll be fine. Why don't you just run errands while I'm in there? And he stayed for 90 full minutes. Gait improved. His cognition improved. Everything was wildly better from it. And so we are here in Jacksonville right now. We go home tomorrow, but we've just done our 3rd cycle of hyperbarics. And so he's 120 dives in. And so, I think hyperbarics, and this is the way I kind of see these two technologies next to each other. Hyperbarics, I think, is necessary for people when they can't be active. You need the hyperbarics. Jeff needed the hyperbarics in the beginning because he could barely walk, and when we first started, he wasn't really walking. He was taking maybe 5 to 10 steps, and then we would put him in the wheelchair and get him moving. He just didn't have the strength or the tone or the coordination to get himself far enough back and forth. But now that he is mobile, he's a personal trainer. He runs his own gym. He's been training his clients since last Thanksgiving, so for about a year. But now he's back to working his own self out and doing pretty much his own workouts. And this system, as soon as he gets done, his speech is himself. And I don't just mean his inflection or his pronunciations, or his enunciation, I guess. It's his words. He's a baseball player, and I don't know if you know, but I know David was a baseball player too. And they have like their own vocabulary systems. They call people by their own nicknames, and that vocabulary is back in Jeff every time we do it, and it lasts for several hours. And the way I look at it is, if he can do it frequently enough, it'll start to be lasting impacts. And I don't know if that's true or not. You know better, but it seems to me like as the brain is rebuilding, it's building sort of weak connections at first that need strengthening over time. But yeah.
Let me inject just a little bit for you. Thank you. So, basically, given the mechanical character and the distributed character of the injury, there's a fair bit of tissue regeneration and neurogenesis that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. And keeping that, just like with your hyperbaric experience at 22 dives, you had a breakthrough.
Yeah.
Okay. What I think you'll see with LiVO2 is that, LiVO2 will create that super high level of oxygen, but it still takes time for his brain to rebuild the stuff it needs to. And what we've seen is, over a period of 6 to 12 months, certainly with other friends of David, this guy had a brain bleed, Afghanistan and stuff like that. And over a period of time, he ended up, reestablishing both motion and feeling in his paralyzed arm and leg.
Wow.
But it took time for that stuff to come back because, you're dealing with neurogenesis. So again, the brain can heal. It's just without the extra oxygen techniques, whether it's hyperbaric or LiVO2, then it doesn't happen. But once you get the oxygen, then the brain's got the resources it needs to heal. So I would say, from what we've seen with others, yes, don't be surprised if it takes a while, but you should see more durable and progression of the recovery. And it tends to happen faster with LiVO2 because the active oxygenation of the brain does a better job of providing more resources to the brain to heal than like, the sponge model of being inside a hyperbaric chamber. So, again, be patient with your expectations, but also to feedback is, that's exactly why with respect to an immobile patient or person, if you can't do anything, absolutely a hyperbaric is the place you want to start because, the brain needs all that stuff and it takes a long time. But once you can transition to an active oxygenation from a passive hyperbaric to LiVO2, then, the person, number one, they get to have some exercise. So it's way less boring and it takes a lot less time, and they get to accelerate the progress. And that's pretty much the case, especially true with people that call themselves athletes, which is, getting back to being an athlete is getting back to pursuing what you consider your quality of life. Not to overtalk that, but just to reinforce what I thought I heard you say.
That's exactly what I said. I mean, my husband, according to the regular medical system, he's made a full recovery, but we know he's not, he's still not able to run, which is, I think, something he would love to get back because he hemorrhaged that corpus callosum. So his bilateral coordination is a little bit off. His right side is slower than his left, basically. And so, but yeah, he's remarkable. And so what we've been doing while we've been here is just kind of body weight plyometrics I love the LiVO2 actually. So I do research for a living and I'm a marketing professor. And so while we're here doing these therapies, I write at night. And I've noticed when I do LiVO2, I don't just write better, but I can write for longer, so I have more energy. My brain just works better. And so it's been really fun.
So we've actually quantified that.
Yeah.
So when you train on LiVO2 with the more aggressive protocols, people will measure an IQ or functional neurological panel will perform between 5 and 15% better.
I feel it. I mean, I think that it absolutely works. I crave it. I just packed it up. Actually, I wanted to tell you this. I was worried so we shipped it here because we were going to be here for the end of the year. And I was thinking, can I pack this up on my own? Because I'm used to having my superhuman husband doing all of these things for me, and I did. I just put it's so easy actually to move it from place to place. So it's all packed up in the car already for us to make our trip back to Tallahassee and
So where are you at right now?
We're in Jacksonville. So this is where we were
okay.
inpatient also. And
Got
I
it.
will say the other side of this that's been incredibly effective is functional neurology. So I don't know if you've ever dabbled in that before, but if you have other patients who are using this for brain recovery, combining the two, the way I look at it is the oxygen therapies provide the resources, but you still need a blueprint of what needs to be rebuilt. And so the functional neurology gives you that blueprint to lay down the neurons that need to be laid down, and it's been, so that's where the spinning comes into play of training his VOR, and which was actually one of the major breakthroughs for him to truly start walking again, because he was falling constantly, but he wasn't falling because he didn't have the stamina or the coordination. He was falling because his eyes couldn't read the space properly. And so we had to fix his visual contamination first, and then he could walk.